This is, for all intents and purposes, a very emotional goodbye. Because the Buffalo Sabres have traded away forward Kyle Okposo to the Florida Panthers in exchange for defenseman Calle Sjalin and a 7th-round pick in the 2024 NHL Draft. And included are the two graphics, pretty much talking about the same things here, but I wanted to talk about this dude right here. What an absolute legend. Kyle Okposo, Buffalo Sabres captain, is gone. 35 years old, 6 feet 218, right-handed right-wing center. $2.5 million a year to the end of this season. He's going over to the Florida Panthers after being the captain of Buffalo for a season last year and 61 games this year. I think most of us are familiar with the body of work that Kyle Okposo has had as a former top 10 pick in the NHL Draft in '06, eventually becoming an absolute stud with the New York Islanders, maxing out at 69 points in 2013-14. That's a very nice amount of points. He hit 60 twice with the Isles before going over to the Buffalo Sabres in 2016-17, where unfortunately he was never as good, but he was still all right. Still a veteran leadership presence, still a captain-worthy player. He got the A on his sweater quickly, and his best season in Buffalo came immediately after getting 45 points in 65 games. Now, he did have a 45-point season just 2 years ago in 74 games played, so even as far back as 33 years old, Kyle Okposo was still providing on-ice production value on top of his leadership. And now, the captain of the Sabres has gotten sent over to a Florida Panthers team that boasts the likes of many extra forwards that they have just gotten. They got Tarasenko, they have one of the best top sixes in the NHL even before that trade, and now, with a depth addition like Okposo, there really is no telling how far the Florida gosh darn Panthers are gonna be able to go this season. Kyle Okposo and his 22 points on Buffalo would already be just outside the top 10 in point production with this group of guys. Add on Vladimir Tarasenko, who had himself a game played already, actually. Good to see him playing so quickly. But Tarasenko was a pretty big addition. Kyle Okposo's another one. You're just bringing in leaders and good veterans into this lineup that know how to score, know how to win. Okposo didn't really have too much success, I would say, in the postseason. The most he's played is 2 rounds with the Islanders in 2015-16. But aside from that, everything else that you could want out of a veteran player, Kyle Okposo has. He's been out of the playoffs for almost a decade. This is a drought for the ages. So, Florida Panthers, all y'all gotta do is put this guy in the postseason and let him cook. Last time he was in the playoffs, he was under a point per game. I don't know how well he's going to be able to do this time around, but we will see indeed. Now, going over to the Florida Panthers, you have yourselves, of course, Kyle Okposo, but then coming back the other way, a conditional 7th-round pick in 2024 and defensive prospect Calle Sjalin. The 7th-round pick can turn into a 5th if Florida wins the Cup, but that's not guaranteed. I'd say it's a pretty high likelihood of happening, but it's not guaranteed, so we'll just say a 7th for now. Meanwhile, Calle Sjalin, I've been seeing a lot of people on Sabres social media complaining about this guy. Not like the Sabres, the team themselves, but the Sabres fan base. Calle Sjalin is a 24-year-old, 6'1", 179 left-handed defenseman, signed to the end of this season, making $155,000. Now, actually, before we continue with this conversation, I will say that the J's in Swedish have a ya sound, to my understanding. I'm not too sure what the 2 dots on top of the A means. I think actually, it's not an A, it's like an sound, right? So it would be Calle Sjalin. Is that correct? I'm not too sure. My Swedish pronunciation is a little bit off. I only know the double thing on top because of Hoglander, but either way, Sjalin is himself a pretty interesting prospect. Initially a Rangers draftee back in 2017, 5th-round pick, 145th overall, and he's been a player that really hasn't had much to show for at the developmental level in pro hockey in North America. 3 points in 22 games played with the Charlotte Checkers this year. He had 8 points in 39 games played the year before that. Really, he's not a super offensive guy. His best offensive season came in 21-22, 22 points in 46 games played for Lechon's IF in the SHL. And the scouting report here says that Sjalin does not tend to play overly aggressive at either side of the ice, but he is a steady, puck-moving defenseman who does not make a lot of mistakes. That was written back in 2017, and I've been seeing a lot of Sabres fans complaining because they got themselves yet another left-handed defenseman in their system. Don't even mind if Sjalin plays in the NHL or not, but just talking about the amount of guys they have on this depth chart that happen to be left D, it is pretty interesting to note. Of course, you had Power and Dahlin as the ones and ones from earlier this season. Bowen Byram was added on just the other night. He had 2 points in his first game, so good to see him doing that on the new team. Side note, it's kind of funny how when Bowen Byram was on the power play for the Sabres last night, you can tell that he wasn't really used to the Sabres structure. He's not used to his power play teammates not moving like they do in Colorado. He was kind of confused for a bit. He still got a goal and an assist, though, which is good to see. But Bowen Byram is indeed a left-handed defenseman that was added onto this team. You've got Riley Stillman. Ryan Johnson is left, I'm pretty sure, as well. Yeah, he is. So there you go. Buffalo getting themselves yet another left-handed defenseman to add into the system. Let's go out there to Cap Friendly and see what the Buffalo Sabres roster looks like on here, because it was a pretty big point of contention, I'd say, amongst many of these Sabres fans. Okay, it just says LDRD. So Dahlin, Byram, Bryson, Johnson, Power can all play on the left, and then you go down into the minors and you see Riley Stillman, Novikov, Calle Sjalin is over here, and then Cale Clegg, Jeremy Davies, a lot of left-handed defensemen. So I'm not necessarily too sure what the Buffalo Sabres plan is with this kind of a move, why they got Sjalin in particular to come back in this Kyle Okposo trade, but at the end of the day, the reason this trade was made was not because Calle Sjalin is like this big, amazing player. It's because they wanted to give Kyle Okposo the playoff opportunity towards the end of his career to hopefully win a Stanley Cup and do right by the player. It was even talked about here. I mean, all of the insiders are saying pretty much the same thing. Nice gesture by Kevin Adams and the Sabres. Florida is where Okposo wanted to go. Wanted to go indeed. Same thing could be said about Tarasenko. That's why the Senators could not get any significant return for him. But either way, for the Florida Panthers, good piece of business. They got Tarasenko, they got Okposo. Apparently they're just going out there and getting everybody whose last name ends in an O. So who's next? I don't really know. Off the top of my head, not too many guys are coming to mind. Kuzmenko! Yeah, get him. Yeah, that's the only one that I can think of. But either way, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the emotional departure of Kyle Okposo from the Buffalo Sabres. He is no longer here. The captain is gone. The Florida Panthers gained themselves a new leader, a new veteran presence, and in return, it is a 7th that could turn into a 5th, as well as a prospect that many Sabres fans are questioning the acquisition of. If Calle Sjalin can come in here and just prove his worth, be fantastic at the Rochester Americans level, get called up to the NHL, play well, do his thing, then okay, I think a lot of people would shut up about that at that time, but that's not guaranteed, so we'll see what happens with Calle Sjalin as his career continues in the Buffalo Sabres system. But for now, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this trade, Calle Sjalin for Kyle Okposo. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.